Hey guys, welcome in today. We're going to be doing something a little different. Today we are talking with Ben Scrivens from Fright Rags, fright-rags.com. I always used to forget that back in the day, the dash. But he is the owner, the creator, one of the biggest, I would call, horror t-shirt concerns, let's say, on the internet, Fright Rags. And Ben, you and I actually go way back, which is one of the reasons why I kind of wanted to touch base with you today and kind of see what you're up to.
Yeah, I mean, God, back to what, 2004 maybe? 2003 maybe?
Yeah, well, I was gonna ask like when Fright Rags started, because maybe that can help me pinpoint a little bit.
Well, this is actually our 15th anniversary. We started in September 2003.
Okay.
I started it myself Labor Day weekend,
Yeah.
and yeah, so it's been 15 years.
Yeah. So you guys at the time were really like just this upstart thing. I'm sure we can talk about it, but I'm sure it was like a very small operation. We were like Mark and I were running the site. We were literal babies when I look back now. But you and I had connected, and we used to do trade like for advertising and stuff. I remember. I remember my first ever Fright Rag shirt, which was the Loomis silhouette. Because back,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
where you got the gun out.
yeah, because back then it was like they were mostly simple black and white, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We kept it pretty simple for a while.
Yeah, I mean, talk to me about those early days, right? I mean, actually, like before we do that, I just want to talk about like where your sort of inspiration as a horror fan, and then like how that led to Fright Rags.
Yeah, so I mean, I saw Halloween when I was 4 in 1981. It was the TV premiere on NBC, and um, that sparked my love of horror even at that young age. And from then on, I grew up just loving horror movies. Halloween and Michael Myers. I just wanted to see more like that. Like I want to see a guy in a mask killing people. Like that was just sort of like. And then I got into other types of horror and things as I grew up. So as I grew older, horror was always in my life. I loved other things, but I just loved horror movies as just so much, and was such a fan. And as I got a little bit older, in a weird sort of parallel sense, I would had a knack for wearing sort of weird shirts. In the sense that I always loved getting shirts when I was out, like on vacation or something. But it's like I had like a certain thing in my mind of what I liked and what I didn't like. So if I was at a store, I'd be like, no, that's cool, that's not. And I couldn't really place why that was. It was just my own personal taste. But as I got older in high school and things, shirts were coming out that were a little bit more retro at the time, which was sort of, feel like a semi-new concept, if you will. And at the time, it was like Brady Bunch and Gilligan's Island, and I would wear those shirts at school because I thought they were cool.
That's
But
awesome.
again, I wasn't really doing it like thinking I was going to create shirts or anything like that. It was just my personal taste. So, and I was in like skate culture and bike culture and stuff like that. So I would wear like those logos and stuff. So I was always, I guess my mind was always attuned to something like that, like design and things. And again, I couldn't articulate it at the time, but that's sort of what pushed me down this path of becoming a graphic designer. And I went to school for it. I wanted to be a comic book artist. I wanted to be a filmmaker. I wanted to be in a band. I wanted to do all the things I think a lot of us want to do, but it ended up kind of all culminating to being a graphic designer. So I went to school for that. And then when I graduated, I got a job being a graphic designer here in Rochester, New York. And it was a very small company, but it was a laptop bag company. So the great thing was it was small. It was the third person on the team. And I was able to do lots of cool things like the website and the print stuff and all that. But it was laptop bags. So as cool as they were, I didn't have this passion for it. So I would, in my spare time, I would sort of think of ideas of what I could do. And horror always was there. And I thought, what else could I create? And I was always on these forums of people making like masks and Freddy gloves and props and stuff. And I was like, man, I want to do something like that. But I lived in an apartment. What can I do? I thought, what if I could come up with like shirts or something? Well, I don't even know if shirts were the first thing. I came up with this design. What would Jason do? WW Hockey Mask D. And I
I
thought that was kind of cool.
I had that one too.
Oh, cool. So that was the first concept. And that was one of those things that I thought, hey, this is melding sort of this humor side and horror without it being just a movie poster on the shirt. Um, and I think it was my friend that said, hey, that would make a cool shirt. So it all kind of just came together in this like soup. And I thought, interesting, what if I did this? But the real impetus was my friend Justin Mabry, who ran a forum called Night Owl Forums, who's now gone on to co-create Trick or Treat Studios and worked on the new Halloween film. It's crazy how far he's gone. I was friends with him through the forum, and we would talk, and he was just a great person to talk to. We were the same age, we had a lot of the same interests. He was super freaking talented. And I showed him my designs, and he said, "Hey, I want to put these on my forum and see what people think." I didn't want to do it myself because I didn't want to like, spam someone's forum and be like, "Look at my stuff." But he did it, and coming from him as the owner, really looked better on me because it was, people took notice. But I got lots of just great comments on the ideas, just people saying, "Hey, that's really cool. I would buy that as a shirt." There was some validation there that pushed me into saying, you know what, maybe I'll actually try this out. And that's what got me to start the website.
So you started the site and you were doing those designs yourself?
Yeah, all the design work for the first probably, I don't know, year or two were all me.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I knew that. That's interesting. I
Oh,
mean,
really? Yeah, no, it was always it was me for long enough to where I started coming up with some ideas and concepts that I probably could execute, but I couldn't do it as quickly and easily as I wanted to. And I was also getting just a little bit busier trying to handle other things. I mean, here's the thing, the company was just me. It was literally just me in my apartment. And then a year later, as I got married and everything moved into my house, I mean, I had someone printing the shirts for me and all that, but I was filling all the orders, I was doing all the emails. But even then, it was so small. I mean, you're talking, I would go a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks without a single order, and then I would get an order. I mean, I'd get to the point where I'd be like, you know what, I need to hang this up. Maybe I should just stop doing this. It's fun, I love it, but you know, I have a wife now, I have a house to take care of, and all this. And then an order would come in, and I'd be like, holy crap! Like, someone just sent me money for a shirt. Like, wow. All right, I'll keep going. But I just kept thinking about it. It's all I thought about. And I would come up with these ideas and concepts that I'd realized, like, you know what, maybe I can hire somebody to put these designs into action. And then when they would kind of go over my sketches or my mock-ups and do it in their way, I went, wow, that's cool. And it opened me up to just sort of trying new variety of styles and things.
yeah, that's true. I mean, it's wild, right? Those moments you look back on where you almost like hang it up, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it really, yeah, there was just a lot of moments. It was never because I was bored with it or because I didn't want to do it. It was just my mind was telling me like maybe, it's like it was like a fool's errand type of thing.
Well, yeah.
Actually, I remember, excuse me, getting over some con crud here.
Hmm.
I remember it was January 2005, so I'd only been doing it for really not even a year and a half, and I was coming home from work, and I was actually kind of getting sick of my job. I liked it okay, but it was just getting bored. And I needed something else. So I was working on my portfolio to shop around town to go to another design firm. And I'd been working on that, but I was working on new ideas for Fright Rags, and I was stuck in traffic, and it was snowing out, and it was taking me like 2 hours to get home, and I was just frustrated. And I remember stopping. Well, I had to stop because traffic was stopped, but I remember just thinking, and I was talking to myself in my truck, and I was like, if I could wake up tomorrow and I could make X amount of money, whatever I was making at my job at the time, that's the amount of money having a new job, a new career in design, which I loved, at a design firm, which there's a bunch around here that I would have loved to work at. If I could wake up tomorrow waking at one of those design firms making this amount of money, or I could wake up tomorrow doing Fright Rags for the same amount of money, what would I pick? So the idea was, let's just take the idea of money off the table, because at the time there was no way I could do Fright Rags full time. It was a hobby. But in my mind, if I could take out the money equation and just look at what my heart wanted to do, not my mind.
It was a no-brainer.
It was a no-brainer. And when I said that out loud, physically to myself in the truck, I said, that's what I need to work on. And I went home and I literally trashed my portfolio. I mean, I just got rid of the resume file. I just went all in. and it still took time. I mean, that was 2005. I didn't quit my job until 2008, but
Oh, wow.
it was the shift. It was the mental shift in, because that voice was telling me, yeah, that's fun that you're doing that, but you know, let's be realistic. You're never going to do that for a job. And it was that shift into, I'm just going to keep working at it. And I don't care if I got to stay up all night and then get up early in the morning. And I was spending my lunch breaks going to the post office and filling out international forms by hand and bringing my orders in to ship. And I didn't care. I just did it. And I just put my nose down. And, they say it takes 5 years to become an overnight success. And when a lot of people talk about, oh, Fright Rags and kind of their perception of where we're at, I think of all the times that nobody knew who I was. Nobody knew, it was just me at the time. Nobody knew anything. I was downstairs in my lower level of my house, toiling away, working on stuff. And it just took time,
It takes
lots
time.
of time. Yeah.
It takes time. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of why I want to dial into it, because I feel like when I look at what you guys are doing now, you guys feel big. But I remember those days when it was just that operation,
Yeah.
But like,
No, absolutely. Yeah.
it feels like you guys have kind of hit this other stratosphere. I mean, what was the turning point business wise? Because you and I have known each other so long. You actually predate my Gmail account, so I can't actually go before that. But
You predate mine too, because it was 2005 I started my
so we
Gmail
would have
account.
been sending each other like Hotmail
Yeah. Yeah. I
emails.
was on Hotmail. Yeah.
But so I have an email that I sent you in October 2006, telling you. So this would have been before when the site was gone, my site, and I was telling you that I was putting together a book with all the reviews and stuff, and I wanted to see if you wanted
Yeah.
to write something for it. That never happened. The next year was when Mark and I finally just decided to bring it back. But you responded and you said that you had just gotten some distribution in Hot Topic
Yep.
in 2006, but you were still working.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was full time. So yeah, I had gotten distribution in Hot Topic in November of 2005. They picked up our Nosferatu design, which was a nice public domain design, and it was hilarious because I was on my way home from my my job, and I got a call, which was funny because it's early days of cell phone even, and my boss was like, he goes, "You bastard!" I'm like, "Whoa, what's going on?" He goes, "You just got an order for 2,000 shirts on our fax machine."
Wow.
And I was like, what? Like, I kind of knew it was coming because I was talking to Hot Topic, and he was kidding, by the way. He was very supportive of me. He
Yeah, yeah.
wasn't being a jerk. He was just ribbing me. I turned right around and went back, and of course, this is again semi. It's weird to think of 2005 as early days, but faxes and stuff like that. But yeah, it faxed over the order, and it was 2,000 shirts, and they needed it in 3 weeks, and they needed them folded and boxed and shipped, and literally a 60-page manual, and I was flipping out because also don't forget they pay like 60 days after they get the stuff, so I have to prepay all this, and I don't
Yeah.
have that kind of money. you know I was in my printer's garage printing right alongside with him and taking these shirts home and folding them to the exact spec that Hot Topic wanted, because if you don't do it to their spec you get dinged money. I mean, they're dealing with huge companies, and this is literally one person, and my family was folding these, and my boss let me use our shipping dock to ship them out, and it all worked out. In fact, kind of a weird aside, I got the check from Hot Topic, and to kind of show you how naive I was, it was Fright Rags, and it was like a $12,000 check, which I'd never seen in my life. I was like, holy crap, I can pay off my credit card with the money I fronted and all this
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
And I didn't make a ton of money off that order, but it was still nice to replenish what I had spent. And I ran to the bank and I went to cash or deposit it, and they were like, "We don't know what Fright Rags is." I'm like, "That's my business," because I had a separate account for my company.
Yeah.
But the account was under my name. It wasn't under Fright Rags because I never got a DBA. I didn't even know what a DBA was.
Oh,
They said, "Well,
wow.
you need a DBA for this account," and I was like, "What the hell is that?" They're like, you got to go to the county clerk's office, and I ran downtown and got one and came back and deposited the check. It was crazy. So what would Jason do? I had gotten a cease and desist from New Line because this hockey mask had looked way too much like the Jason hockey mask, of course. So I took out all their trademarks and I sent it back to them. They said, you're okay to do this because it took out their trademarks because it looked kind of like an alien. But Hot Topic picked it up and they ordered like 800 shirts to try out. Then they ordered 3,000, which we had to do. And again, like 3 weeks. And then when it got that order filled, they ordered like another 3,500. It was nuts.
Now, was that your first experience with copyrights? Because obviously, it's interesting because one of the things I think that you guys changed in a lot of ways is like you're saying movie shirts previous to you guys, and I don't know that you guys were the first one to do this, but to me it was the first time I noticed where it wasn't just a poster on a shirt, and then you guys were doing this really like artist driven kind of graphical design inspired
Right.
by thing, which also kind of I would think introduces some gray areas with the copyright law, right? Because it's almost like a work inspired by in some sense. Like was that the first time you ran into copyright issues?
Yeah, that was definitely the first cease and desist I ever received, and it scared the crap out of me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I knew. It's funny. I looked back at my email not too long ago, and I found an email, I think from like 2004, asking New Line for a license. Like I knew early on that in order to do this the right way, I had to get licensing, but I knew nothing about it. I had zero money. I was a blip on anyone's radar. I wasn't even a blip, you know. I was a smudge on their screen, you know. It was just it was insignificant at that point. So yeah, I mean, there were definitely things I would try to do to skirt those issues that I thought were more of an homage rather than direct ripoff. But at the same time, I wanted to do that. I didn't want to do like a silver bullet shirt that had the name and the people. I wanted to do just the wheelchair. You know, I wanted to do Wolfman's Got Nards because that was hilarious to me.
Right.
So I wanted for the Wolfman, you know, because I had never seen that before on a shirt. That had not been done before. But my friends and I would say that line to each other. I thought that would be fun to wear on a shirt. So it was a little bit of both. It was like, oh, how can I skirt copyright? But it was also like, that's just what I would want to wear anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly feel like now the thing that you guys kind of pioneered in a lot of ways is the norm now for horror shirts. Like, does that feel weird to you? Like, would you agree with that?
It's hard to say. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess yes, I would say that. I don't want to. It's weird to think of us as some sort of, I don't know.
Trendsetter.
Yeah, I guess it is. Although I do recognize it in some ways because I see what's out there now, and it feels like maybe we blazed that path. But on the other hand, I hate looking backward. I'd rather just keep bettering what we do because we're only as good as the last thing we did. As soon as they start turning around and looking behind me, I mean, it's I love where we're at. I love how far we've gone, and it's fun to reminisce once in a while. And don't get me wrong, I like that. But if I get caught up in that, if we around here start thinking we're awesome in the sense that, oh, we got this, we're great, then we're going downhill, and we all know that, and we none of us take this for granted. Like all it takes is one time to f up, and we're screwed. Like especially with all the competition out there. Like
Yeah. Right.
it every day we have you know, expectations to live up to, and nobody puts higher expectations on us than ourselves. And that's really what keeps us going. I mean, so I don't, it's a weird thing because it's like part of me is like, yeah, I can kind of see where we influence something. But then the other part of me says, it may have just happened anyway. We just happened to be there at the right time.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's really. I mean, you got to stay hungry, right? Like
Yeah.
that's kind of that huge part. What does your operation look like now? Obviously, it's got to be much different from those early days.
Yeah, it's a lot different. So we're 7 people, um, working out of this particular location, office and warehouse. There's 6 of us. Joe, our designer, works from home because he lives about 45 minutes west of here in Lockport. But we have, you know, we have Kimmy, our office manager. She takes care of a lot of the accounting and customer service and just a ton of stuff. Um, Tansky, who is our production manager, handles a lot of the orders and deals with approvals and artists and things like that. And then we have Heather, our shipping manager, Jess, who also works in the warehouse, and Liz, who's kind of our Jill of all trades. She does customer service. She helps with orders. She does a lot of our research with trading cards that we do. So yeah, we all wear a lot of different hats. And it's funny because as we grow, you know, you always look for ways to be more efficient, and you always look for ways to kind of just figure out the process. You know, we're always developing the process because things change, and we're always getting things thrown at us. And as we get busier, we're always trying to streamline. And that's mostly what I try to do, is try to streamline things and look kind of a bird's eye view and say, okay, where can we improve? Where are we going? What are we doing? And just an overview.
Big picture stuff.
Yeah.
Very Michael Scott of you.
Yeah. Although I do get in the dirt a lot too. So there's a lot of times. I mean, honestly, lately I've been downstairs helping fill orders and stuff too because we've been absolutely slammed and we're trying to keep up orders and things. So wherever we can jump in, we jump in. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna have to move that stuff to later so I can just jump. Like later today, I'll probably go and do an hour or two of orders just to help them downstairs a little bit because we've been backed up because we were gone last week and just trying to keep things flowing.
I mean, and this Halloween season must be big, right? With this new movie coming out, you guys like talk to me about some of the stuff you guys are doing with this license.
So yeah, I mean, clearly the biggest thing we're doing right now is the new Halloween, and then of course the original because it's the 40th anniversary. We also have 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we kind of build it as the month of Myers because every week is a different release for a Halloween film. We kicked it off in September with a pre-order of 5 of the designs that we thought were going to be um, either the biggest hits or just 5 of the designs like for 2018 and the original film so we could hit the ground running because I knew people were going to want shirts for the new film to see it tonight. But also we were going to be going at the Halloween 40th convention, which is a big deal for us. That was in LA. And so we were gone last week into this week. So there was a lot of prep. So we thought if we can head it off at the pass a little bit and get some pre-orders, we'd be able to take care of a bunch of customers that wanted to get their shirt because as soon as we left last, Thursday, I was gone since last Tuesday, but we shut down at the end of last Wednesday. We weren't going to be able to fill orders until this week. So we really wanted to make sure we filled as many orders as possible. So we really wanted to make sure we got like our flagship designs down for Halloween 2018, even though the movie hadn't come out yet. So we have Justin Osborne did this beautiful, incredible piece that is really the flagship of that line. And then we were able to do a couple other things with the mask because we weren't able to use a lot of other things until the movie came out. So we were kind of limited in a way, but I really feel like what Justin did was that was the hallmark of what we wanted to do for our collection. And we'll do more as time goes on, maybe next year. And now that the movie's out and it'll be out on DVD by then and people will have seen it so we can kind of draw more inspiration from it without giving anything away. And then the original film was really just trying to up our game a bit and pay homage to this film that's 40 years old now. And we couldn't let it go without really pulling on all the stops because we really wanted to do a lot of great stuff with it. It's funny how that film is 40 years old and we've done so much with it, but there's still so much more we could do. So that was fun.
Yeah.
And then honestly, the rest 4, 5, and 6 are just going to be tons of fun to work on, and they already have been.
Can I tell you? Can I tell you how excited I was about Halloween 6 shirts?
You're not the only one. I'm so happy because people are like
Love that.
jazzed, and honestly, because I've seen maybe 4 or 5 licensed Part 6 shirts, and they all look almost the same. I think they all have the poster art on them, at least what I've seen. So
the thing about that movie is like it's a mess, but it's like really aesthetically interesting. Like it's a really interesting. It's got this really sharp look to it. I feel like, and I always liked Michael in that movie, even though he's kind of like gigantic in a weird way.
It feels like Halloween in that movie. It feels like fall in Haddonfield, Illinois to me.
Totally does. Yeah. So I was pretty pumped about that.
Yeah.
And you guys have also moved into like other stuff lately. Like you're making, I mean, not lately, it's been a while, but like socks and pins. And I mean, that must have been a whole new kind of world for you guys.
Yeah. I mean, again, we're always thinking of things. If we're sitting around the office and we're talking about something and we're like, ooh, that would be fun, like bringing back the old Ben Cooper style masks. I'm like, I want a mask of, Terminator. I never had that as a kid because it didn't exist. So why don't we make it? Or like the socks or trading cards. I mean, that was a huge one. I was like, man, if I could have Dawn of the Dead trading cards when I was a kid that looked like the trading cards we had as a kid with the chipboard backing, not slick, retro and with the wax paper. Like to me, that anything that can really hit that nostalgia button with us that's where we start going in that direction because it's really just scratching an itch that we have. I mean, I was at Slashback Video in Pasadena or on Burbank, this past weekend, and it's a retro video store that they set up for a few months, and they had a case and they had all these, they had the Fright Flicks cards, they had Tales from the Crypt, and they had our cards next to it, Dawn of the Dead and Reanimator, and I was so excited, not even just to it was a weird thing. It wasn't just to see our cards because it was ours. It was like they felt so right within that context, and that really made me happy because it felt like, wow, this is really cool. Like I felt almost like I want to go buy those, even though we made them. Like I want to buy them, and it was just a cool feeling.
That's awesome. I've seen a bunch of pictures of that place. I'm super jealous for
Oh,
anyone
it's
that got to
great.
go. Looks awesome. Well, I'm sure you can't talk about it, but do you guys have, I mean, what's next? Like, do you guys have like the next big thing lined up already?
Well, I mean, obviously we're heading into the holidays after Halloween. We're getting into Thanksgiving, Christmas. We do have a few releases planned for the rest of the year. We're, in sort of this uh, way of sort of branching out a little bit. We're kind of throwing a curveball in November, and we're doing Die Hard shirts. So that'll be fun.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, and our first wave collection of Pet Cemetery shirts will be coming out in November, with a second collection coming out for the new movie next year. It's for the original film, but it's coming out around the same time the new movie comes out in April. Um, and then December, well, later on in November, we've got some new items coming out. We've got some more lounge pants. We've got some beanies coming out. And then December, we're going to be working on Silent Night, Deadly Night 2,
Ooh, wow.
to be coincide with the DVD release for from Scream Factory. So that's really that's how we're finishing out the year. There's a couple other things coming up, and then honestly, we're just really we've dove in head first to next year because we've got a ton of stuff coming out next year. It's a bit overwhelming, but it's going to be so much fun to work on.
That's great. Last question. If you could go back to 2003, Ben, and give him a piece of advice, what do you think it would be?
Oh, that's a good question. I would just say keep doing what you're doing. Just follow your heart and just keep pushing even when you don't want to anymore.
Very nice. Well, Ben Scrivens, thank you very much for taking time to talk to us today. You guys can check out Fright Rags at fright-rags.com to see all that stuff we've been talking about. And Ben, thanks again.